The courthouse was intimidating, all marble and echoing hallways and serious-looking people in suits. Jack met us in the lobby, his own suit crisp, and the rain hammered against the windshield as I pulled into my daughter's driveway, the wipers working overtime to keep up with the deluge. It was supposed to be a simple visit, just a weekend with Rachel and her family before the holidays kicked into full swing. At 68, I'd learned to treasure these moments with my daughter and my 7-year-old grandson, Tommy. After my husband Edward passed 3 years ago, these visits had become my lifeline, the thing that kept me tethered to joy when grief threatened to pull me under. I grabbed my overnight bag from the passenger seat and made a dash for the covered porch, my sensible shoes splashing through puddles that had formed in the uneven pavement. Before I could even reach for the doorbell, the front door flew open. "Grandma!" Tommy burst out, his small body colliding with mine in a fierce hug that nearly knocked me off balance. "Tommy, sweetheart, let Grandma get inside before you bowl her over," I laughed, ruffling his dark hair. But even as I smiled, something in his embrace felt desperate, his small arms clinging to me with unusual intensity. Come in, Mom. You're getting soaked." Rachel appeared in the doorway, her smile bright but not quite reaching her eyes. My daughter had always been beautiful, with her father's striking green eyes and my auburn hair, though hers had started showing threads of silver at 39. But today, there was something brittle about her expression, a tightness around her mouth that set off alarm bells in my mother's heart. I stepped into the foyer, shaking off the rain and setting down my bag. The house was exactly as I remembered from my last visit 6 weeks ago. The same family photos lining the hallway, the same faint scent of Rachel's lavender candles, the same cream-colored walls that she'd repainted last spring. Everything was familiar, yet something felt fundamentally wrong. "Where's Marcus?" I asked, referring to Rachel's husband of 12 years. Marcus was usually the first one to greet me, his booming laugh and warm hugs a staple of these visits. "Business trip," Rachel said quickly, too quickly. "Chicago. He'll be back Monday." Tommy's grip on my hand tightened. I looked down at him and noticed he was staring at his mother with an expression I couldn't quite read. Fear? Worry? Before I could analyze it further, Rachel was ushering us toward the kitchen. "I made your favorite, pot roast with those little potatoes you like. Dinner will be ready in about 20 minutes. Why don't you get settled in the guest room? Tommy can help you with your bag." As Rachel disappeared into the kitchen with unusual haste, Tommy practically dragged me up the stairs. His small hand was clammy in mine, and I could feel it trembling slightly. "Tommy, honey, what's wrong?" I asked as we reached the guest room at the end of the hall. The room was cozy and welcoming, decorated in soft blues and whites, with a quilted bedspread I'd helped Rachel pick out years ago. Tommy glanced back toward the stairs, then pulled me fully into the room and closed the door. His face was pale, his brown eyes wide with an emotion that made my stomach drop. "Grandma," he whispered, his voice shaking, "you can't go back home." I knelt down to his level, my knees protesting slightly, and took both his hands in mine. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Of course I'm going home on Sunday. That's the plan." "No!" His voice rose, panic bleeding through. "You can't. Promise me you won't go home." "Tommy, you're scaring me. What's this about?" Tears welled in his eyes. "I heard Mommy on the phone. She was talking to someone. She said," he hiccuped, trying to catch his breath. "She said terrible things, Grandma. About you, about your house. She's planning something bad." My heart began to race, but I forced myself to stay calm. Children sometimes misunderstood things, jumped to conclusions. "Honey, maybe you heard wrong or—" "I didn't hear wrong," Tommy insisted, his voice breaking. "She said she was going to get you out of the house. She said she already had papers ready. She said you were too old to live alone and that she was going to make sure you couldn't stop her." The words hit me like ice water. Papers? Make sure I couldn't stop her? I'd heard stories, of course. Terrible stories about adult children who manipulated their elderly parents, who sought control of their assets or had them declared incompetent for various reasons. But Rachel, my Rachel, the little girl I'd rocked to sleep, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose every triumph I'd celebrated? Tommy, are you absolutely sure about what you heard? I asked gently but firmly. He nodded vigorously, tears now streaming down his cheeks. I was supposed to be asleep. But I heard her talking in the office downstairs. The door was open a crack. She said once you're away from the house, she can handle the rest. She said something about facility and power of attorney and he struggled to remember. And something about your medicine making you confused. My blood ran cold. I wasn't on any medication except for low-dose aspirin and a vitamin D supplement. I was in excellent health for my age. My doctor had remarked on it just last month at my annual checkup. I was sharp as a tack, managed my own finances, volunteered twice a week at the library, and maintained my house and garden without assistance. Who was she talking to? I asked. I don't know. I couldn't hear the other person. It was a phone call. I pulled Tommy into a tight hug, my mind racing. Could this be real? Could my own daughter be planning something so underhanded? And if so, why? We'd always had a good relationship, or so I thought. I'd helped her and Marcus with the down payment on this house, babysat Tommy regularly, been supportive of all her decisions. What could possibly motivate her to do something like this? Then again, the house. My house. The 4-bedroom Victorian that Edward and I had bought 40 years ago, that we'd lovingly restored together, that sat on 2 acres of prime real estate in a neighborhood that had become increasingly upscale. The house was paid off, worth well over $1 million now, and I'd mentioned to Rachel recently that I'd been updating my will with my lawyer. Okay, Tommy, I said, pulling back and wiping his tears with my thumbs. Okay, sweetheart. I need you to do something for me. I need you to act normal, like we didn't have this conversation. Can you do that? He nodded, sniffling. Are you going to leave? Not yet. I need to find out what's really going on, but I promise you, I'll be careful. And thank you, my brave boy, for telling me. That took courage. I don't want them to take you away, he whispered. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetheart, more than you know. Dinner was a surreal affair. I sat at Rachel's dining table, forcing down pot roast that might as well have been cardboard, while my daughter chattered about inconsequential things, the PTA meeting she'd attended, Tommy's upcoming school play, the new Italian restaurant downtown. She seemed almost manic in her cheerfulness, talking too much, laughing too loudly at things that weren't particularly funny. Tommy pushed his food around his plate, shooting me worried glances when his mother wasn't looking. I tried to give him reassuring smiles, but my mind was elsewhere, analyzing every word Rachel said, every gesture she made, looking for clues. You seem tired, Mom, Rachel said suddenly, her eyes sharp on my face. Are you feeling all right? Just a bit of a headache, I lied, smoothly. The drive in the rain, you know. Nothing serious. You should take something for it. I have some Tylenol PM. It'll help you sleep too. Every instinct I had screamed at me not to take anything Rachel offered. That's okay, dear. I have my own medication routine. Don't want to mix things up. But you're not on any medications, Rachel said, her smile unwavering but her eyes calculating. Just my supplements. I'm very particular about timing. I took a sip of water, then deliberately changed the subject. So, this business trip of Marcus's, is he still enjoying his new position? Rachel's expression flickered, just for a moment, but I caught it. Uncertainty? Guilt? Oh yes, he loves it. Very demanding, though. He's gone more than he's home these days. That was new. In all our phone conversations over the past months, Rachel had never mentioned Marcus traveling frequently. In fact, the last I knew, he was working at the same architectural firm he'd been with for years, handling mostly local projects. After dinner, Rachel suggested we watch a movie, but Tommy complained of being tired, and I claimed my headache was worsening. Rachel looked frustrated, but couldn't push without appearing suspicious. All right, she said tightly. Tommy straight to bed. Mom, you should rest too. We can have a nice breakfast in the morning and catch up then. As I climbed the stairs to the guest room, I could feel Rachel's eyes boring into my back. Once in the room with the door locked, I pulled out my cell phone. The battery was at 78%. Good. I opened my browser and began searching for information on elder financial abuse, conservatorship proceedings, and how adult children could manipulate the system to gain control of aging parents' assets. What I found was chilling. There were countless cases of elderly people being declared incompetent based on dubious medical evidence, often coordinated with lawyers and complicit doctors. Once a conservatorship or guardianship was established, the adult child could control everything: bank accounts, property, even where the parent lived. And getting out of such arrangements was notoriously difficult, requiring expensive legal battles that the victim often couldn't wage because they no longer had access to their own money. I thought about my own situation. I'd named Rachel as my healthcare power of attorney years ago, back when Edward was sick, and I'd been updating all our legal documents. It had seemed natural at the time. She was my only child, and I'd trusted her completely. But a healthcare power of attorney only activated if I was incapacitated, unable to make my own medical decisions. That wasn't enough for what Tommy had described, unless Rachel was planning to have me declared incompetent. A soft knock on the door made me jump. I quickly closed the browser and opened a solitaire game before answering. "Come in." The door opened a crack and Tommy's head appeared. "Grandma? Can I come in?" I glanced at the clock. It was past 9, and Rachel expected him to be asleep. "Is your mom downstairs?" He nodded. "She's on the phone again." "In the office. The door's closed this time." "Come here, quick." Tommy scurried in, closing the door silently behind him. He was in his pajamas, his hair still damp from his bath. I pulled him onto the bed beside me. "Can you tell me exactly what you heard, Tommy? Try to remember the exact words if you can." He scrunched up his face, concentrating. "It was Wednesday night. 2 days ago. I got up to go to the bathroom and I heard her voice downstairs. I was going to go ask for water, but something about her voice made me stop. She sounded mean, not like normal mommy." "What did she say?" "She said, 'It has to be this weekend. We can't wait any longer.' Then she was quiet, listening to whoever was on the phone. Then she said, 'Yes, everything's arranged. The doctor's report is ready, and the lawyer has the papers drawn up. Once she's here and we've established the pattern of confusion, we can move forward.'" My hands clenched into fists. "Go on." "Then she said something about you forgetting things and getting lost and how you'd nearly caused a fire." "But Grandma, you didn't. I know you didn't." "I know, sweetheart." "What else?" "She said, 'The facility in Riverside is perfect. Once she's placed there, we'll have full access to handle the estate. The house will need to go on the market immediately. The longer we wait, the more complicated it gets.'" He looked up at me with frightened eyes. "What does that mean, Grandma?" "What facility?" "Riverside. There was a memory care facility in Riverside about 90 miles away. Far enough that none of my friends or neighbors could easily visit. Far enough that I'd be isolated, unable to advocate for myself effectively." "And you're sure she said the papers were ready?" "Yes," she said. "The guardianship petition is ready to file first thing Monday morning. By the time she realizes what's happening, it'll be too late." Monday. If Tommy was right, Rachel planned to make her move this weekend, probably had been planning it for weeks or even months. The doctor's report he mentioned would be a fabrication, or worse, from a doctor who'd never actually examined me but who was willing to sign off on whatever Rachel claimed. I'd heard of such things happening. "Tommy, this is very important. Did she say anything about your dad? About Marcus?" Tommy shook his head. "She didn't mention him. But Grandma..." He hesitated. "What is it, honey?" "I don't think Daddy's on a business trip. I heard them fighting last week. Really bad fighting. Daddy said Mommy was being crazy, that he wouldn't be part of it. Mommy said she didn't need his help and that he was too weak. Then I heard the front door slam and I haven't seen Daddy since. So Marcus either didn't know or didn't approve. That was something, at least. Marcus had always been kind to me, respectful. But where was he now? Had Rachel driven him away? Was he staying somewhere, contemplating divorce, perhaps? Okay, Tommy. Here's what we're going to do. I need you to go back to bed now, and tomorrow, you act completely normal. Don't give your mom any reason to think you've told me anything. Can you do that? What are you going to do, Grandma? Good question. I couldn't just pack up and leave in the middle of the night. That would alert Rachel, and she might accelerate her plans. I needed evidence, proof of what she was planning, and I needed to get home and secure my affairs before she could do anything. I'm going to protect myself and protect you, I said firmly, but I need you to trust me and do exactly as I say. Tomorrow, we're going to have a normal day. Then tomorrow night, late, I'm going to leave. But I need some time first. Can I come with you? Not yet. But soon, I promise. After Tommy reluctantly returned to his room, I lay awake in the darkness, my mind working furiously. I needed to see this doctor's report Tommy had mentioned. I needed to find these papers, and I needed to do it while Rachel thought I was safely tucked away in the guest room. I waited until midnight, then eased open my door and crept into the hallway. The house was silent. A light was on in the kitchen, but the rest of the first floor was dark. I could see from the top of the stairs that Rachel's bedroom door was closed. Her room was on the first floor, in what used to be a home office before Tommy was born. Moving as quietly as possible, I descended the stairs, skipping the third step that I remembered creaked. My heart hammered in my chest. What was I doing? Breaking into my daughter's private spaces, spying on her like some kind of criminal. But then I remembered Tommy's terrified face, and I pushed forward. The office Rachel had mentioned was a small room off the living room. I tried the door, locked. Of course. I stood there for a moment, frustrated. Then I remembered. Rachel had always been terrible about hiding keys. Even as a teenager, she'd stashed spare keys in the most obvious places. I checked the decorative bowl on the hallway table, just loose change and some receipts. The vase on the mantel held flowers, but nothing else. Then, running my hand along the top of the doorframe, I felt something small and metallic. Bingo. The key turned smoothly in the lock. I slipped inside and closed the door behind me, then used my phone's flashlight to navigate. The office was neat and organized. A desk with a computer, filing cabinets, bookshelves. I started with the desk drawers. The first two were mundane, office supplies, old electronics, random paperwork. But the third drawer had a folder labeled Mother in Rachel's precise handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a nightmare. There was a cognitive assessment report dated 2 weeks ago, signed by a Dr. Harrison Chen, MD, detailing supposed memory lapses, confusion, and signs of early dementia. According to this report, I had been evaluated and found to be suffering from moderate cognitive impairment with progressive deterioration. It was completely fabricated. I'd never met any Dr. Harrison Chen, never been evaluated. Behind that was a petition for appointment of guardian and conservator, with Rachel named as the proposed guardian. The petition claimed I was unable to care for myself or manage my financial affairs, and that I had repeatedly endangered myself and others through negligent behavior, including leaving the stove on, getting lost while driving, and failing to take prescribed medications. All lies, all complete and utter lies. There were notes in Rachel's handwriting detailing a strategy. Create evidence trail. Document any forgetfulness or confusion during weekend visit. Have Dr. Chen available for emergency evaluation if needed. File Monday morning before she returns home. Have police escort her directly to Riverside. I photographed everything with my phone, my hands trembling with rage and betrayal. How long had she been planning this? Weeks? Months? And why? I found the answer in another document, a printout of an email from a real estate agent. Dear Rachel, as discussed, I'm confident we can list the property at $1.3 million with a quick sale expected. The neighborhood is extremely desirable, and a renovated Victorian of that size rarely comes on the market. Once you have the legal authority to sell, we can move forward immediately. Based on current market conditions, you should net approximately $1.1 million after fees and commissions. Please keep me updated on your timeline. $1.1 million. That's what this was about. That's what I was worth to my daughter. I thought about the will I'd just updated. the one that split everything between Rachel and several charities close to my heart. But Rachel didn't know about those changes yet. She probably thought she'd inherit everything, and she'd decided she didn't want to wait. The betrayal cut so deep I could barely breathe. I sat in the dark office, surrounded by evidence of my daughter's conspiracy to steal my life, my home, my freedom, and I felt something break inside me. This was the little girl I'd sacrificed for, worked extra shifts to afford dance lessons for, stayed up all night with when she was sick. This was the woman I'd supported through college, through her wedding, through the difficult early years of her marriage when money was tight, and she was willing to destroy me for money. I heard a noise, footsteps in the hallway. Quickly, I returned the folder to the drawer, locked the office, and pocketed the key. I barely made it to the stairs before Rachel emerged from her bedroom. "Mom, what are you doing up?" "Think fast." "Bathroom," I said, making my voice sleepy and slightly confused. "Got turned around. These old eyes, you know. Everything looks different in the dark." Rachel's expression shifted to something calculating. "You got lost going to the bathroom?" I realized my mistake immediately. I was playing right into her narrative. "Not lost, dear. Just disoriented for a moment. I'm fine." But I could see her mentally filing this away, adding it to her list of evidence. "Let me help you back to bed," she said, taking my arm with false solicitude. "We should talk in the morning about maybe getting you some additional support at home. I've been worried about you, Mom. You're not as young as you used to be." "I'm fine, Rachel," I said firmly. "Perfectly capable." "Of course you are," she said in that patronizing tone people use with children and the elderly. "But there's no shame in accepting help when we need it. We all get older." She walked me back to the guest room like I was an invalid, and I let her, because I needed her to think I was exactly what she wanted me to be: confused, vulnerable, easy to manipulate. But as I closed the door behind me and heard her footsteps retreat, I knew what I had to do. I had to get out of this house, and I had to do it before Monday morning. I didn't sleep at all that night. Instead, I made plans. First, I went through my contacts and found Jack Reeves, my lawyer who'd handled Edward's estate and my recent will update. I drafted a text to send him first thing in the morning, asking him to file an emergency restraining order against Rachel and to revoke any and all powers of attorney I'd granted her. I also drafted an email with all the photos I'd taken as attachments, explaining the situation and marking it to send at 8 a.m. Next, I called my bank's after-hours fraud line and reported my concerns about potential financial exploitation. They assured me they'd flag my accounts and require in-person verification with photo ID for any major transactions or changes. Then I contacted my doctor's office and left a message for Dr. Peters, explaining that I needed an emergency cognitive evaluation on Monday to counter false medical claims. I wanted legitimate, documented proof that I was of sound mind. By the time dawn broke, I had a plan. I would play along through breakfast, act slightly forgetful and confused to confirm Rachel's expectations and keep her guard down. Then, this afternoon, while she was distracted, I would leave. The hardest part would be leaving Tommy. But I couldn't take him. That would be kidnapping, and it would give Rachel legal ammunition against me. I'd have to trust that once I exposed Rachel's plans, the courts would ensure Tommy's safety. Breakfast was another exercise in acting. I forgot where I'd put my reading glasses. They were on my head, struggled to remember what day it was, and knocked over my orange juice. Each incident made Rachel's eyes gleam with satisfaction. "Mom, I really think we need to talk," she said, after Tommy had gone upstairs to play. "I've been noticing some concerning changes in you. The forgetfulness, the confusion. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but I think it's time we looked into some additional support for you." "I'm fine, Rachel," I said, making my voice uncertain, weak. "Just tired, that's all." "That's what worries me." "You're always tired lately. And yesterday, you couldn't even find the bathroom. What if something happened when you were home alone? What if you fell or left the stove on or—" "I said I'm fine," I snapped, then caught myself. "I'm sorry, dear. I didn't mean to raise my voice. I don't like being treated like I'm incompetent." "No one's saying that. Rachel said smoothly. But you're 68, Mom. That's not old, but it's not young either. I'd feel better if we could get you some help. Maybe someone to check in on you daily, or... She paused delicately. Or we could look into some nice assisted living facilities. Just for your safety. There it was. The trap, laid out so carefully. Let me think about it, I said, playing my role. It's a big decision. Of course, Rachel said, but I could see the frustration in her eyes. She'd expected me to resist more, or to agree immediately in my confused state. My middling response wasn't part of her script. Around noon, I claimed I wanted to take a nap. Rachel looked relieved, probably planning to use the time to make more calls to her conspirators. I went upstairs, but instead of sleeping, I quietly gathered my things. I'd brought very little, which made packing easy. I changed into practical clothes, jeans, a warm sweater, comfortable shoes. Then I sat by the window, watching the driveway, waiting for my moment. It came at 2 p.m. when a delivery truck pulled up. Rachel went to answer the door, signing for a large package. The moment she was distracted, I texted Tommy, "Don't worry, I love you. Be brave." Then I crept down the back stairs, the ones that led through the kitchen to the back door. I could hear Rachel talking to the delivery driver at the front. I slipped out the back, moving quickly around the side of the house to where my car was parked on the street. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Every second I expected Rachel to come running out, to stop me. But I made it to my car, threw my bag in the back seat, and started the engine. As I pulled away from the curb, I saw Rachel emerge from the house, her face a mask of shock and fury. She ran toward my car, but I was already moving, already gone. I drove carefully, checking my rearview mirror constantly, expecting to see Rachel's SUV following me. But the road behind me stayed clear. Maybe she was calling the police, reporting me as a confused elderly woman who'd wandered off. Maybe she was calling Dr. Chen or her lawyer, panicking that her plan was falling apart. I didn't care. I just drove, putting miles between myself and my daughter's house, between myself and the trap she'd laid for me. The drive home usually took 90 minutes, but I took a circuitous route, adding an extra hour to make sure I wasn't being followed. By the time I pulled into my own driveway, it was after 5 p.m., and the autumn sun was setting, casting long shadows across my beloved Victorian house. Home. I was home. I sat in the car for a moment, just looking at it. The house Edward and I had made ours, where we'd raised Rachel, where we'd grown old together. The house she'd planned to steal from me. My phone buzzed. 17 missed calls from Rachel, 12 text messages ranging from, "Mom, where are you?" to, "This is exactly what I was worried about. You're not thinking clearly. Come back so we can help you." I deleted them all and went inside. The house felt different somehow, knowing what I now knew. I walked through the rooms, seeing them through Rachel's eyes, not as home, but as assets to be liquidated. The antique furniture Edward and I had collected over the years, the china from my grandmother, the original hardwood floors we'd restored. All of it was just dollar signs to her. I made myself a cup of tea and sat down at my kitchen table with my laptop. It was time to go on offense. First, I sent the scheduled email to my lawyer, Jack Reeves, adding a note that I was home and safe but needed to meet with him first thing Monday morning. Then I called my closest friend, Diane, who lived 3 houses down. "Margaret, is everything all right? You sound upset." "Diane, I need your help," I said, and then I told her everything. To her credit, she didn't interrupt, didn't express disbelief. She just listened. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Oh, honey," she said finally. "Oh, Margaret, I'm so sorry." "What do you need?" "I need witnesses. I need people who can testify that I'm of sound mind, that I'm capable of living independently, and I need to make sure Rachel can't just show up here and force me to go with her." "Consider it done," Diane said firmly. "I'll be over in 10 minutes, and I'm calling Helen and Barbara too. We'll set up a rotation. Someone will be with you until this is resolved." True to her word, within an hour I had 3 of my closest friends gathered in my living room. Diane, Helen, and Barbara, women I'd known for 30 years, who'd supported me through Edward's illness and death, who'd celebrated holidays and birthdays and grandchildren with me. They were outraged on my behalf. "I never liked that girl," Helen said bluntly. Helen was 82 and had never bothered with social niceties. Always thought she was entitled. Remember when she threw that fit about not getting the biggest piece of your mother's jewelry? "That was 20 years ago, Helen," I protested weakly. "Character doesn't change," Helen said. "She showed you who she was then. You just didn't want to see it. Maybe she was right. Maybe there had been signs all along. The subtle criticisms, the way Rachel always seemed to be calculating what she could get from situations, her obsession with appearances and status. I'd attributed it to normal human flaws, never imagining it could extend to something like this. "The question is, what do we do now?" Barbara asked. Barbara was a retired paralegal and had a practical mind for strategy. "Even with your lawyer on board, Rachel could still cause a lot of trouble. These guardianship hearings can be tricky, especially if she has a doctor willing to testify on her behalf." "We need our own medical evaluation," Diane said. "Multiple ones, actually. Margaret, first thing tomorrow, we're going to get you evaluated by every specialist we can find. Neurologist, psychiatrist, geriatric specialist. We'll create such a mountain of evidence that her fake report won't stand a chance." "Tomorrow's Sunday," I pointed out. "So?" "Dr. Peters owes me a favor, and my nephew is a neuropsychologist at University Hospital. I'll call in every marker I have." I felt tears welling up, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. "Thank you," I whispered. "All of you. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'd do the same for any of us," Barbara said matter-of-factly. "Now, let's go through everything again. We need to document all of this properly." We spent the next several hours going through every detail. Barbara took notes in her precise hand, making a timeline, listing all the evidence I'd gathered, identifying potential witnesses. By the time they left around 10 p.m., I had a comprehensive battle plan, but I also had a profound sense of sadness. This was my daughter I was preparing to fight in court, my only child. The little girl who'd once made me Mother's Day cards covered in glitter and misspelled endearments. How had we come to this? I tried to sleep but couldn't. Every creak of the house settling made me jump, imagining Rachel had come to drag me away in the night. Around 2 a.m., I got up and made myself warm milk, something my own mother used to do for me when I couldn't sleep. As I sat in the kitchen, my phone lit up with a call. "Rachel." I watched it ring, then go to voicemail. A moment later, a text came through. "Mom, please call me back. I'm worried sick. Whatever you think is happening, you're confused. Let me explain. Let me help you. I love you. I love you." Did she? Had she ever? Or had I just been a means to an end, a source of security and financial support that she'd tolerated until she could claim her inheritance? Another text. "Tommy is crying for you. He doesn't understand where you went. Please don't do this to him." That one hit hard. I thought of Tommy's frightened face, his plea for me not to go home. Was Rachel using him now, weaponizing my love for my grandson? I almost called her, almost. But then I remembered the cold calculation in those documents, the casual cruelty of planning to lock me away in a memory care facility while she sold my home out from under me. I set the phone down and didn't respond. Sunday morning brought a flurry of activity. True to her word, Diane had arranged for me to see Dr. Peters at his home office at 9 a.m., followed by Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to the fake doctor, Harrison Chen at noon, and Dr. Michael Rodriguez, her neuropsychologist nephew, at 3 p.m. Dr. Peters was first. He'd been my physician for 15 years and knew my medical history inside and out. "Margaret," he said, shaking his head after I'd explained the situation. "I can't believe Rachel would do something like this. I've never seen any signs of cognitive impairment in you. You're one of my sharpest patients." He put me through a comprehensive examination, checking my reflexes, my memory, my reasoning skills. He asked me to recall lists of words, to solve basic math problems, to to draw a clock face and other shapes. I completed every task easily. "Your cognitive function is excellent," he said, writing notes. "I'm going to document this thoroughly and provide a written statement." "But Margaret, I have to ask, have you considered that Rachel might genuinely believe something is wrong? Sometimes family members misinterpret normal forgetfulness as more serious issues." "She has a fake medical report from a doctor I've never seen," I said flatly, "and legal papers already drawn up to have me declared incompetent. This isn't misunderstanding. This is fraud." His expression darkened. "Then we'll make damn sure she doesn't succeed. I'll have this report to your lawyer by tomorrow morning." Dr. Sarah Chen was equally thorough, adding a psychiatric evaluation to rule out depression, anxiety, or any other mental health issues that might be mischaracterized as dementia. She spent 2 hours with me, asking about my daily routine, my social connections, my hobbies and activities. "You're more mentally active than most people half your age," she told me. "You volunteer, you maintain your home and garden, you have strong social connections, you manage complex financial decisions. There's absolutely no indication of any cognitive decline." Dr. Rodriguez was the most rigorous. The neuropsychological evaluation involved a battery of tests: memory, attention, language, visual spatial skills, executive function. It took nearly 4 hours, and by the end, I was exhausted but relieved. Every test confirmed what I already knew. I was competent, capable, and of sound mind. "Whoever this Dr. Harrison Chen is," Rodriguez said grimly, "he either never examined you or he falsified his findings. I'll be happy to testify to that in court if necessary." By Sunday evening, I had 3 comprehensive medical evaluations, all documenting my excellent cognitive health. I also had written statements from Diane, Helen, and Barbara, attesting to my independence and capability. Barbara had even drafted affidavits for several other neighbors who'd agreed to testify on my behalf if needed. But the most important call came at 7 p.m. from my lawyer, Jack Reeves. "Margaret, I've reviewed everything you sent me," he said, his voice tight with anger. "This is one of the most egregious cases of attempted elder abuse I've ever seen. First thing tomorrow morning, I'm filing an emergency motion to revoke Rachel's power of attorney. All of it, not just healthcare. We're also filing for a restraining order to prevent her from coming near you or your property." "Can she still file her guardianship petition?" I asked. "She can try," Jack said. "But not only do we have your medical evaluations, I've also done some digging on this Dr. Harrison Chen. Margaret, he had his license suspended in California 3 years ago for falsifying medical records in exactly this type of case, signing off on competency evaluations he'd never actually performed. He moved to Nevada and somehow got licensed here, but he's known in legal circles as someone who'll say anything for money." "So, Rachel hired a fraudulent doctor." "Exactly. And when the judge sees that, combined with your legitimate evaluations, her petition won't stand a chance. In fact, she could face criminal charges for fraud and attempted exploitation of an elderly person. Criminal charges against my daughter. The reality of it settled over me like a heavy blanket. Jack, I don't want her to go to jail. I just want to be left alone. I want my freedom and my home, and I want her to stay away from me." "I understand," he said gently. "But Margaret, what she did, what she attempted to do, is a crime. The district attorney may pursue charges regardless of your wishes. These laws exist to protect vulnerable seniors." "I'm not vulnerable," I said, perhaps more sharply than I intended. "No, you're not. But she thought you were, or she was willing to make you vulnerable. That's what the law will consider." After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of my living room, not bothering to turn on the lights. Somewhere out there, Rachel was probably planning her next move. Did she know I'd been collecting evidence against her? Did she realize her scheme had fallen apart? My phone rang again. Rachel, for probably the 30th time that day. This time, I answered. "Mom, thank God. Where are you? Are you okay?" "I'm home, Rachel. Where I belong." "You shouldn't have left like that. You scared me half to death. I was about to call the police and report you missing." "But you didn't," Did you? Because that would create a record, and you didn't want anyone official looking too closely at the situation. Silence. Then, I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. I found the papers, Rachel. The fake medical report, the petition for guardianship, the email from the real estate agent about selling my house. More silence. Longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, gone cold, hard. So Tommy did tell you. That little traitor. Don't you dare blame him. He's 7 years old, and he was terrified. He had no business listening to my private conversations. And you had no business planning to have me locked away and steal my home. Steal? It's my inheritance. It should have been mine years ago. There it was. The truth finally spoken aloud. I'm 68 years old, Rachel. Not 98. I could live another 20 years, and even if I don't, that house is mine to do with as I please. You're not entitled to anything. After everything I've done for you, all the times I've checked on you, invited you over, let you be part of our lives, this is how you repay me? I almost laughed at the audacity. You mean all the times I helped you? The down payment on your house? The years of free babysitting? The money I lent you when Marcus's firm was struggling? I never asked for repayment for any of that, Rachel. I gave it freely because you're my daughter and I loved you. Loved? Past tense? My heart broke a little more. I don't know anymore. The daughter I loved wouldn't have done what you did. You're being dramatic. I was trying to help you. You are getting older, Mom. You're not as sharp as you used to be, whether you want to admit it or not. I was just trying to make sure you were taken care of before something terrible happened. By having me declared incompetent with a fraudulent medical report? By planning to sell my house without my consent? That's not help, Rachel. That's abuse. It's criminal. Criminal? Don't be ridiculous. I'm your daughter. I have your best interests at heart. My lawyer disagrees. So do the 3 legitimate doctors who evaluated me today, all of whom found me to be of completely sound mind. Another pause. You went to doctors? You're building a case against me? I'm protecting myself. Tomorrow my lawyer is filing an emergency motion to revoke every power of attorney I ever granted you. He's also filing for a restraining order. You can't do this. Her voice rose, panic bleeding through. I'm your daughter. Your only family. You should have thought about that before you decided I was worth more to you dead than alive. I never said that. You didn't have to. Your actions said it for you. I hung up before she could respond, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I'd done it. I'd confronted her. And while there was a certain grim satisfaction in having spoken my truth, I felt hollow inside. Grief and anger warred within me, and I didn't know which would win. A text came through moments later. This isn't over. I'll fight you. And when I prove you're incompetent, you'll lose everything. The house, your freedom, all of it. You're making a huge mistake. Then another, and you'll never see Tommy again. I'll make sure of that. That threat stung more than any of the others. Tommy, my sweet grandson, caught in the middle of this nightmare. I wanted to text back, to argue, to defend myself, but I knew anything I said could be twisted and used against me later. So I took screenshots of her messages, saved them, and showed them to Jack. His response was immediate. This is evidence of harassment and threats. Strengthens our restraining order case. Don't respond to her. Monday morning arrived with leaden skies and a cold rain that matched my mood. I dressed carefully in a conservative suit, the kind of outfit that said, competent professional, not confused elderly woman. Jack had told me to meet him at the courthouse at 9 a.m., and I wasn't going to be late. Diane insisted on driving me. You're not facing this alone, she said firmly. Helen and Barbara came too, a united front of loyal friends, his briefcase full of our evidence. Rachel hasn't filed her petition yet, he told me, which means she either got cold feet or she's regrouping. But we're not waiting. We're filing first. We spent the morning in various courtrooms and offices, Jack filed the motion to revoke Rachel's power of attorney, the request for a restraining order, and, at the judge's suggestion, a protective order for my assets. He also filed a complaint with the state medical board about Dr. Harrison Chen. Even if Rachel doesn't pursue her guardianship petition, Chen needs to be stopped, Jack explained. He's victimized other families. This ends now. At noon, we broke for lunch, gathering at a quiet restaurant near the courthouse. I picked at a salad, my appetite non-existent. "How are you holding up?" Barbara asked gently. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me keeps thinking this is all a nightmare and I'll wake up and Rachel will be my daughter again, not this stranger who tried to destroy my life." "She is a stranger," Helen said bluntly. "Maybe she always was, and you just didn't see it. People can fool us, especially the ones we love most." "But she's my child." "I carried her for 9 months. I raised her. How did I not see this in her?" "Because you're a good mother," Diane said. "Good mothers believe the best about their children. You couldn't have known she'd turn out like this." "Where's Marcus in all this?" Barbara asked. "Have you heard from him?" I shook my head. Tommy said they had a fight, that Marcus wouldn't go along with Rachel's plan, but I haven't been able to reach him. "Maybe we should try," Diane suggested. "He might be willing to testify about Rachel's state of mind, her true motivations." It was a good idea. After lunch, while Jack was filing more paperwork, I tried calling Marcus's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. I tried his work number. Same thing. Finally, I called his firm and asked to speak with him. "I'm sorry, but Marcus Holloway is on personal leave," the receptionist said. "He's not expected back until next week. Can someone else help you?" Personal leave. So he was gone, but not on a business trip. Where was he staying? And more importantly, would he help me if I could find him? The afternoon brought our first court appearance, a hearing on the emergency restraining order. Jack had warned me that Rachel would be notified and might attend, but I still wasn't prepared for the sight of her walking into the courtroom. She looked terrible. Her hair was uncombed, her clothes wrinkled, her face pale and drawn. But her eyes, when they met mine, were full of hatred. She had a lawyer with her, a sharp-looking woman in an expensive suit who immediately began arguing against the restraining order. "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding between a mother and daughter," the lawyer said smoothly. "Ms. Holloway has been concerned about her mother's declining health and was simply trying to ensure she received appropriate care. There's been no abuse, no harassment." "No harassment?" Jack stood up, holding his phone. "Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence text messages sent by Ms. Holloway to my client just last night, including threats to ensure Mrs. Brennan never sees her grandson again." He handed copies to the judge and to Rachel's lawyer. I watched Rachel's face pale as her lawyer read the messages. The judge, a middle-aged woman with stern features, read through the texts carefully. Then she looked at Rachel. "Miss Holloway, did you send these messages?" Rachel's lawyer whispered something to her, but Rachel shook her head and spoke directly to the judge. "I was upset. My mother ran away from my house in a confused state, and I was worried about her safety." "I didn't run away in a confused state," I said before Jack could stop me. "I escaped what amounted to a kidnapping plot." "Mrs. Brennan," the judge said, not unkindly, "please let your lawyer speak for you." Jack stood again. "Your Honor, we have extensive documentation showing that Ms. Holloway planned to have Mrs. Brennan fraudulently declared incompetent and placed in a memory care facility against her will for the purpose of gaining control of Mrs. Brennan's assets." "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Reeves." "I have serious evidence, Your Honor." He began presenting the documents I'd photographed, the fake medical report, the guardianship petition, the emails about selling my house. Rachel's lawyer tried to object, claiming the documents had been obtained illegally, but the judge overruled her. "This appears to be a civil matter regarding potential elder abuse. Mrs. Brennan had every right to gather evidence if she believed she was in danger." The hearing stretched on for over an hour, with both sides presenting arguments. Jack brought out my medical evaluations, the statements from my friends and neighbors, my clean bill of health from 3 separate doctors, Rachel's lawyer argued that I was paranoid, that I'd misinterpreted Rachel's concern as malicious intent. Finally, the judge held up her hand. I've heard enough. Ms. Holloway, I find the evidence presented here to be deeply troubling. Whether your intentions were good or not, your methods were clearly inappropriate and potentially illegal. I'm granting the temporary restraining order. You are to stay at least 500 feet away from Mrs. Brennan and her property. You are not to contact her directly in any way. Any communication must go through your respective lawyers. Rachel stood up abruptly. What about my son? She's his grandmother. You can't keep her away from him. Mrs. Brennan isn't prohibited from seeing her grandson, the judge said. You are prohibited from seeing her. If you wish to arrange supervised visits between Mrs. Brennan and her grandson, you may do so through your attorney. This order will remain in effect pending a full hearing in 30 days. She banged her gavel, and it was done. Rachel stormed out of the courtroom, her lawyer hurrying after her. I sat there shaking, hardly able to believe what had just happened. I'd won, at least this round. That went well, Jack said, gathering his papers. The judge clearly saw through Rachel's claims. But Margaret, this isn't over. She'll appeal, and we still have the full hearing in 30 days. We need to keep building our case. I know, I said quietly. But Jack, what about Tommy? The judge said I could see him, but Rachel will never agree to that. Then we'll petition for grandparent visitation rights, Jack said. It's a separate legal action, but given the circumstances, I think we have a strong case. That evening, exhausted and emotionally drained, I returned home to find an unexpected visitor sitting on my front porch steps. Marcus. He looked even worse than Rachel had, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing what looked like the same clothes he'd had on for days. He stood up when he saw my car pull into the driveway. Margaret, please, I need to talk to you. Diane, who was still with me, tensed. You want me to call the police? No, I said, studying Marcus's defeated posture. It's okay. I'll hear what he has to say. Diane wasn't happy about it, but she agreed to wait in her car while I talked to my son-in-law. We sat on the porch steps together, an awkward silence stretching between us. I'm sorry, Marcus said finally. God, Margaret, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what she was planning until it was too late. Tommy said you fought about it. That was after I found some papers in her office. Medical documents, legal papers. I couldn't believe what I was reading. When I confronted Rachel, she told me she was doing what needed to be done, that you were getting too old to manage on your own, that it was her responsibility to take care of you. Take care of me, I repeated bitterly. Is that what she calls it? I told her she was insane, that what she was planning was illegal, immoral, wrong in every possible way. We had the worst fight of our marriage. She said if I wasn't going to help her, I should get out. So I did. Where have you been? Hotel, mostly, trying to figure out what to do. I wanted to warn you, but I didn't have any proof, just what I'd seen. And I was afraid if I contacted you, Rachel would somehow twist it, use it against both of us. You should have warned me anyway. I know that now. But Margaret, you have to understand. I never thought she'd actually go through with it. I thought once she calmed down, she'd see how crazy this whole plan was. I didn't realize she'd already set everything in motion, that she had a fake doctor and a lawyer and… He put his head in his hands. I'm a coward. I should have stopped her. Yes, you should have. I said it without anger, just stating a fact. But you're here now. Why? Because I want to help. I want to testify, to tell the court what I know about Rachel's plans, her state of mind, and because… He looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed. Because I'm filing for divorce, and I want full custody of Tommy. That surprised me. Full custody? Rachel has lost her mind, Margaret. This obsession with your house, with money, it's not new. It's been building for years. She's been secretly resentful of every penny you've spent on anything other than us. When you mentioned updating your will, something in her just snapped. She became convinced you were going to cut her out, leave everything to charity or something." "I wasn't cutting her out," I said. "I was splitting it between her and several causes that were important to Edward and me. She still would have inherited the majority. It wasn't enough for her. She wanted it all, and she wanted it now. And I can't let Tommy grow up around that kind of greed, that kind of cruelty. She used him, Margaret. She was going to use our son as leverage to manipulate you. What kind of mother does that?" "The same kind who plots to steal her own mother's freedom," I thought. "If you testify against her, she'll never forgive you," I warned. "I don't want her forgiveness. I want my son safe, and I want you safe. That's all that matters now." We talked for another hour, Marcus filling in details I hadn't known. How Rachel had been researching guardianship laws for months. How she deliberately sought out Dr. Harrison Chen because of his reputation for falsifying reports. How she'd opened secret credit cards to pay for the lawyers and other expenses, planning to pay them off once she had access to my accounts. "She really believed she could get away with it," Marcus said. "She had this whole timeline planned out. Get you declared incompetent, have you placed in the facility, sell the house within 6 months before anyone could question the arrangement. She figured by the time any of your friends noticed something was wrong, it would be too late to stop her. She would have succeeded too if not for Tommy. Tommy's smarter than both of us gave him credit for. He knew something was wrong, and he had the courage to speak up." Marcus's voice broke. "I'm so proud of him, and so ashamed of myself for not being braver." Before he left, Marcus gave me a flash drive. Copies of everything I found in her office, including emails and financial records. "I hope it helps your case." After he drove away, I went inside and plugged the flash drive into my laptop. What I found there was even more damning than what I'd already discovered. Spreadsheets calculating my net worth down to the penny. Email exchanges with the real estate agent going back 4 months. Research into different memory care facilities and their costs. A detailed budget showing how Rachel planned to spend her inheritance. There were also emails with Dr. Harrison Chen, discussing his fee $5,000 and exactly what the fake report needed to say. And emails with her lawyer, discussing legal strategies for overcoming any objections I might raise. But the most chilling document was a Word file titled Plan.docx. It laid out every step of Rachel's scheme in meticulous detail. 1. Arrange weekend visit with mother. 2. Document any signs of confusion or forgetfulness. 3. If necessary, administer medication to enhance confusion, Ambien in her coffee. 4. Have Dr. Chen ready for emergency evaluation. 5. File guardianship petition, Monday morning. 6. Have police escort mother to Riverside facility for her own safety. 7. Once in facility, begin liquidation of assets. 8. Pay off debts and legal fees. 9. Reinvest remainder for comfortable lifestyle. She'd planned to drug me, to actually poison me in order to make me appear confused and justify her fake medical report. I felt sick. This wasn't just greed or impatience. This was calculated, premeditated abuse. I forwarded everything to Jack immediately, then called him to make sure he'd received it. "Marcus came through," I told him. "You're not going to believe what I'm sending you." "Jesus Christ," Jack said after several minutes of silence while he reviewed the files. "Margaret, this is attempted fraud, possibly attempted poisoning, conspiracy. Rachel could go to prison for this. I don't want revenge, Jack. I just want safety." "I understand. But the district attorney will see these files and they may pursue charges regardless of your wishes. What Rachel planned to do goes beyond a civil dispute. This is criminal." After we hung up, I sat in the dark kitchen, holding the cup of tea I'd made but couldn't bring myself to drink. I kept thinking about that line in Rachel's plan. Administer medication to enhance confusion. She'd been planning to poison me, her own mother. How had it come to this? Where had I gone wrong in raising her that she could even contemplate such a thing? Or maybe I hadn't gone wrong at all. Maybe this was who Rachel had always been, deep down, and I'd just refused to see it. The call came on Wednesday afternoon, 3 days after the restraining order was granted. It was Marcus. "Margaret, can you come get Tommy? Rachel just got arrested." My heart stopped. "What?" "The police showed up an hour ago with a warrant." Apparently, the district attorney reviewed the evidence and decided to press charges. They arrested her for attempted fraud and conspiracy to commit elder abuse. She's at the county jail. Oh my God. Is Tommy okay? Did he see it? He's pretty shaken up. He doesn't really understand what's happening. I told him Mommy made some mistakes and she has to talk to some important people about it, but... Marcus's voice cracked. "Can you come? He keeps asking for you." "I'll be there in 20 minutes. I made the drive in 15, breaking every speed limit. Marcus's hotel was downtown, a modest chain establishment where he'd apparently been staying since walking out on Rachel. He met me in the lobby and led me up to his room. Tommy was sitting on one of the beds, his face blotchy from crying, clutching the stuffed elephant I'd given him for his last birthday. When he saw me, he launched himself off the bed and into my arms. "Grandma, Grandma, they took Mommy away." "I know, sweetheart. I know." I held him tight, feeling his small body shake with sobs. "Is it because of me? Because I told you her secret?" "No, baby. No, it's not because of you. You did the right thing. You saved me. Do you understand that? You're a hero." "But Mommy's in trouble because of it. Mommy's in trouble because of choices she made. Bad choices. It's not your fault." Marcus stood awkwardly in the corner, clearly overwhelmed. "I don't know what to do," he admitted. "I can't keep him in this hotel. And I can't go back to the house. It's technically Rachel's family home, in her name only. My lawyer says I need to find appropriate housing before I can petition for custody, but that takes time and money and—" "He can stay with me," I said immediately. "Margaret, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering. He should be with family in a real home, not a hotel room. And Marcus, you should stay too. I have plenty of space. The restraining order is against Rachel, not you or Tommy. Jack confirmed I can have contact with both of you." Marcus looked like he might cry from sheer relief. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely sure." We packed up their meager belongings. Marcus had fled with barely anything, and Tommy had only the clothes and toys Marcus had bought him over the past few days. As we drove back to my house, Tommy in the back seat still clutching his elephant, I thought about the strange turns life takes. A week ago, I'd been heading to what I thought was a pleasant family visit. Now my daughter was in jail, my son-in-law was filing for divorce, and my grandson was coming to live with me. But Tommy was safe. I was safe. And Rachel couldn't hurt either of us anymore. Diane, Helen, and Barbara descended on the house within hours of our arrival, bringing casseroles and comfort and practical help. Helen immediately set about making up the second guest bedroom for Marcus. Barbara went shopping for Tommy, clothes, school supplies, anything a 7-year-old might need. Diane just sat with me in the kitchen while Marcus helped Tommy get settled upstairs. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I honestly don't know. I'm relieved, horrified, heartbroken, angry, everything all at once." "That's normal. You're allowed to feel all of it." "She's my daughter, Diane. No matter what she did, she's still my daughter. And now she's sitting in a jail cell. Because of choices she made. You didn't put her there. But if I hadn't pushed, if I'd just, I don't know, tried to talk to her, work things out, she would have destroyed you," Diane said firmly. "Margaret, listen to me. Rachel made her choices. She chose greed over love. She chose manipulation over honesty. She chose to victimize her own mother for financial gain. You did not cause this. You only protected yourself, which was your right and your responsibility. I just wish things could have been different." "I know, but wishing doesn't change reality." That night, after everyone had left and Marcus had gone to bed, I sat with Tommy in his temporary bedroom, the room that had once been Rachel's when she was a girl. He was in his pajamas, the elephant still held tight. "Grandma?" he said sleepily. "Are you going to send me away too?" "What?" "No, Never. Why would you think that? Because I'm bad luck. I made Mommy get arrested and Daddy leave and everything's all messed up. Oh, sweetheart. I climbed onto the bed beside him, ignoring the protest of my old joints. None of this is your fault. Not one single bit of it. You were brave and honest and loving. Those are good things, not bad things. But Mommy's gone now. I know, and that's hard and sad and scary, but you still have me and you still have your dad, and we both love you more than anything in this world. Promise you won't go away? I promise. I'm not going anywhere. He fell asleep curled against my side, and I stayed there long after he'd drifted off, watching his peaceful face in the glow of the nightlight, thinking about how close I'd come to losing this. If Rachel had succeeded, I'd be locked away in some facility right now, medicated and controlled, cut off from everyone I loved. And Tommy would be with her, learning that manipulation and cruelty were acceptable, that love was just a tool to be exploited, but we'd survived. We'd escaped. And now we had a chance to build something better. Rachel's trial didn't begin until January, 3 months after her arrest. She'd been released on bail after a week in jail, but the restraining order kept her away from me, from Tommy, from Marcus. Her lawyer had tried multiple times to get the charges reduced or dismissed, but the evidence was overwhelming. I didn't want to attend the trial. The thought of sitting in a courtroom while prosecutors detailed my daughter's crimes made me physically ill. But Jack insisted I needed to be there, both to support the prosecution's case and to show the judge the human impact of Rachel's actions. The courtroom was packed with reporters. The case had attracted media attention as a cautionary tale about elder abuse. I sat in the front row with Marcus, flanked by my friends. Tommy was with a babysitter. We'd all agreed he shouldn't be exposed to the proceedings. When Rachel was led in, I barely recognized her. She'd lost weight. Her clothes hung loose on her frame, and her hair had gone mostly gray. She looked 10 years older than when I'd last seen her. Our eyes met across the courtroom, and for just a moment, I saw my daughter, frightened, alone, regretful. But then her expression hardened, and she looked away. The trial lasted 3 days. Prosecutor after prosecutor presented evidence. The fake medical report, the guardianship petition, the emails about selling my house, the plan.docx file detailing how Rachel intended to drug me. Dr. Harrison Chen had already been arrested and had agreed to testify against Rachel in exchange for a reduced sentence. He admitted she'd paid him to falsify the medical report without ever examining me. Marcus testified about finding the documents, about Rachel's obsession with my money, about the fight they'd had. His voice shook as he described Rachel's cold response when he'd confronted her. It's my inheritance. I'm just claiming what's rightfully mine. The medical experts testified about my cognitive health, about how I was fully capable of independent living and financial management. My friends testified about my active life, my volunteer work, my social engagement. And finally, I testified. Rachel's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, as a mother who'd turned on her daughter over a simple misunderstanding. But when the prosecutor asked me directly how I felt about Rachel's actions, I told the truth. I feel betrayed, heartbroken, devastated. But mostly, I feel sad. Sad that my daughter valued money more than our relationship. Sad that she was willing to sacrifice my freedom, my dignity, my very identity for financial gain. And sad that it's come to this, sitting in a courtroom, testifying against my own child. Do you want her to go to prison? The prosecutor asked. I want her to get help. I want her to understand the magnitude of what she tried to do, and I want her to never be in a position to hurt anyone else this way. The defense called only one witness, a psychiatrist who tried to argue that Rachel had been suffering from severe anxiety and depression, that she'd convinced herself she was acting in my best interest. But under cross-examination, he admitted he'd only met with Rachel twice after her arrest, and that he had no evidence to support his conclusions about her mental state at the time she'd planned her scheme. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. Guilty on all counts: attempted fraud, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, conspiracy to administer harmful substances, and making false statements in legal proceedings. When the verdict was read, Rachel collapsed in her chair. sobbing. Part of me wanted to go to her, to comfort her the way I'd comforted her through every hurt and disappointment of her childhood. But I stayed in my seat, Marcus's hand gripping mine, and let the bailiffs handle her. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge was thorough and stern. "Ms. Holloway, what you attempted to do to your mother represents one of the most insidious forms of abuse, the exploitation of a person's love and trust for financial gain. You fabricated medical evidence. You conspired with an unscrupulous doctor. You planned to forcibly institutionalize a healthy woman and liquidate her assets. You even planned to drug her to make her appear confused." The victim impact here is profound. Mrs. Brennan has lost her daughter, her sense of security, her ability to trust. Your son has lost his mother and had his childhood traumatized by witnessing these events. Your husband has lost his marriage and his faith in the person he once loved. The court sentences you to 5 years in state prison with the possibility of parole after 3 years, contingent on completion of psychiatric treatment and restitution. You are also ordered to have no contact with Mrs. Brennan or your son except through supervised visitation approved by the court and Dr. Brennan herself. 5 years. My daughter would be 44 when she got out, assuming she made parole. Tommy would be 10, maybe 12. A lifetime in childhood terms. Rachel was led away in handcuffs, and this time, she didn't look at me at all. Spring came late that year, but when it finally arrived, it felt like a rebirth. Tommy had settled into his new school, made friends, joined the soccer team. Marcus had found a job with a new architectural firm and was renting an apartment nearby. We'd worked out a custody arrangement where Tommy spent weekdays with me and weekends with Marcus, giving the boy stability and structure while allowing both of us to be part of his life. The house had come alive again. Tommy's laughter echoed through the halls. His artwork covered the refrigerator. His toys were scattered in the living room. It was messy and chaotic and absolutely wonderful. I'd made changes to my will, ensuring that if anything happened to me, everything would be held in trust for Tommy until he turned 25, with Marcus as trustee. There would be no possibility of anyone exploiting my grandson the way Rachel had tried to exploit me. I'd also thrown myself into volunteering with an elder advocacy organization, speaking at community centers and senior facilities about the warning signs of financial abuse. My story had resonated with many people, and I'd received dozens of letters from others who'd experienced similar betrayals. It helped to know I wasn't alone, and it gave me purpose to help protect others. Diane, Helen, Barbara, and I had started a weekly dinner club. The Survivors' Supper Club, Helen called it, with her characteristic dark humor. We took turns hosting, and we'd invited other women who'd overcome various challenges. A widow rebuilding after her husband's death, a woman who'd survived a stroke, another who'd escaped an abusive marriage late in life. We were all warriors in our own ways, and we drew strength from each other. The hardest part was explaining everything to Tommy. He knew his mother was in prison, but understanding why was complicated. We'd gotten him a child psychologist, someone who specialized in family trauma, and slowly, session by session, he was processing what had happened. "Did Mommy ever love me?" he asked one evening as I was tucking him in. The question pierced my heart. "Oh, sweetheart. Yes, I believe she did love you. She got confused about what was important. She let other things become more important than love." "Like money?" "Like money," I agreed. "And that was her mistake, her failure. Not yours. Never yours." "Do you still love her, Grandma?" Did I? That was the question I asked myself every day. I loved the daughter I'd raised, the little girl who'd brought me dandelions and called them flowers. But the woman who'd tried to destroy me, could I love her? "I love who she used to be," I said carefully, "and I hope that someday she'll find her way back to being that person. But right now, I'm angry and hurt, and those feelings are okay too. Love is complicated, Tommy. It's okay to love someone and still need to protect yourself from them. Like with Daddy and Mommy. He loved her, but he had to leave? Exactly like that. Your daddy loved your mommy, but he couldn't stay in a situation where she was doing harmful things, just like I love her, but I can't let her hurt me or you." He thought about this for a while, his young mind working through complex adult emotions. "I think I'm mad at her," he said finally. "Is that bad?" "No, baby. It's not bad at all. You're allowed to be mad. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to feel however you feel." "I miss her sometimes," he whispered, "even though I'm mad." "I know, I do too." We sat together in the comfortable silence that had developed between us over these months. Grandfather and grandmother bound by trauma but growing stronger together. In June, 6 months after Rachel's sentencing, I received a letter from the prison. It had been opened and screened by the authorities, but the handwriting was unmistakably Rachel's. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Part of me wanted to throw it away unread, to protect myself from whatever manipulation or justification it might contain. But another part, the mother part that would apparently never die, needed to know what she had to say. "Dear Mom, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve for you to do either. But my therapist here says I need to take accountability for my actions, and she's right. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to claim I was trying to help you or that I believed I was acting in your best interest. The truth is uglier than that, and I'm finally facing it. I was greedy. I was impatient. I was entitled. For years, I'd been thinking of your house, your assets, as something that was already mine, just temporarily in your possession. Every time you spent money on yourself, or donated to charity, or even just lived your life, I resented it. I saw it as taking away from my inheritance, from what I deserved. The worst part is, I don't even know when I became this person. Was I always like this? Did I hide it from everyone, including myself? Or did I gradually twist into someone capable of doing what I did? My therapist says I have what she calls toxic materialism, that I'd tied my self-worth and identity so completely to money and status that I lost sight of everything else. She says it probably started when I was young, watching my friends' families with their bigger houses and fancier cars, feeling like we never had enough, even though we had plenty. I remember being embarrassed that you drove an old car when I was in high school, embarrassed that our house wasn't in the most expensive neighborhood, embarrassed that you worked as a librarian instead of something more prestigious, and I'm ashamed now to realize that I carried that embarrassment into adulthood, even though you and Dad gave me everything that mattered: love, support, education, opportunity, *. When Dad died and you inherited everything, I thought it would finally be my turn. I thought you'd sell the house, downsize, give me my fair share. When you didn't, when you just kept living your life like you had every right to, which of course you did, I became obsessed. I couldn't stop thinking about that money, that house, what I could do with it. Marcus tried to tell me I was losing perspective. He tried to get me to see a therapist, but I convinced myself he just didn't understand, that he was too timid, too willing to settle for less. I started researching conservatorships and guardianships, initially just as a what-if scenario. What if you really did become incapacitated? But then I started thinking, what if I could make it happen sooner? What if I could convince everyone you were incapacitated when you weren't? It's horrifying to write that out, to see it in black and white. I was going to destroy your life for money. I was going to lock you away, take your home, take your freedom, take everything that made you who you are. And I was going to sleep fine at night because I'd convinced myself it was my right. The worst part, and there are so many worst parts, is that I was going to use Tommy. I was going to teach my son that manipulation and lies and cruelty were acceptable if they got you what you wanted. What kind of mother does that? I don't know if I can ever be forgiven for what I did. I don't know if I can even forgive myself, but I'm trying to understand it, to make sure I never become that person again. In here, I have a lot of time to think about my priorities, my values, what really matters. I think about Tommy every day, his laugh, his hugs, the way he used to tell me about his day at school. I threw all of that away for money I didn't even need. I think about you, Mom, about every sacrifice you made for me, about how you worked overtime to pay for my dance lessons and my college education, about how you took care of Dad when he was dying, never complaining, just loving him until the end, about how you've always been there for Tommy, babysitting without complaint, showering him with love and attention. And I repaid all of that by trying to steal your life. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking to see Tommy. I know I haven't earned that right, and maybe I never will. I'm not even asking you to write back. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I became, what I did, how wrong it was, and I'm trying to become someone better, even if it's too late to matter. I'm sorry, Mom, for everything. For the daughter I should have been and wasn't. For the pain I caused you. For the trust I betrayed. For choosing money over love. I'm so sorry. Rachel. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Was it genuine? Was she truly remorseful? Or was this another manipulation, a play for sympathy? How could I ever know for sure? I showed the letter to my therapist. Yes, I'd started seeing one too, to help process the trauma of what Rachel had done. Dr. Walsh read it carefully, then looked at me with kind, professional eyes. "What do you think?" she asked. "Does it seem sincere to you?" "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to believe she's really changed, that she understands what she did. But part of me wonders if this is just another angle, another way to manipulate me. "Both could be true," Dr. Walsh said. "She could be genuinely remorseful and also hoping that remorse will lead to reconciliation. People are complicated. Their motivations are rarely pure. So what do I do? What do you want to do?" I thought about it for a long time. I want to write back. But I'm scared. Scared of being pulled back in, scared of being hurt again, scared of making a mistake. "Those are all valid fears," Dr. Walsh said. "But Margaret, you've proven you can protect yourself. You've set boundaries. You've built a support system. You're not the same woman who walked into Rachel's house last October. You're stronger now, wiser. If you want to write back, you can do so safely." So I did. It took me a week to write it, drafting and redrafting, trying to be honest without being cruel, firm without being harsh. Rachel, I received your letter and I've read it several times. I appreciate that you're taking accountability for your actions. That's an important first step. I won't pretend your apology makes everything okay. It doesn't. The damage you did, to me, to Tommy, to Marcus, to our entire family, can't be undone with words. Trust, once broken this completely, may never be fully repaired. But I do believe people can change. I have to believe that, or I'd have no hope for humanity, including myself. So I'm choosing to take your words at face value and believe that you're genuinely trying to understand what you did and become better. I'm not ready to see you. I may never be ready. The restraining order stands, and it will continue to stand for as long as I need it to feel safe. I hope you can understand that. Tommy is thriving. He's doing well in school. He's made friends. He's joined soccer. He's in therapy, processing what happened, and he's growing into a remarkable young man. I tell you this not to hurt you, but because I think you deserve to know that he's okay, that he's cared for, that he's loved. He asks about you sometimes. I tell him the truth, in age-appropriate ways, that you made serious mistakes, that you're working on becoming better, that sometimes adults hurt the people they love and have to face consequences. I don't hide what you did, but I don't demonize you either. That's the best I can do. As for forgiveness, I don't know. I'm working on it. Some days I think I can forgive you. Other days the betrayal feels as fresh as it did that night I found your files. Forgiveness isn't a switch I can flip. It's a process, and I'm still in the middle of it. What I can tell you is this. I don't hate you. I'm angry and hurt and disappointed, but underneath all of that, there's still love. The kind of love that doesn't go away just because someone betrays you. The kind of love that makes betrayal hurt so much in the first place. I don't know what our relationship will look like when you get out of prison, or if we'll have one at all. But I'm not closing the door completely. I'm leaving it open a crack, just enough for the possibility of healing if and when you're truly ready for it. Keep working on yourself, keep going to therapy, keep taking accountability, and maybe someday we'll find a way forward. Mom. I mailed the letter and tried not to think too much about it. Life moved forward, as it always does. Tommy finished second grade with good grades and a smile on his face. Marcus started dating someone, a nice woman named Claire who worked at his firm. Diane's daughter had a baby, making Diane a grandmother and giving us endless excuses to coo over baby photos. Summer arrived in full force, hot and bright. Tommy and I planted a garden together, tomatoes and peppers and herbs. We spent long evenings on the porch, reading books and drinking lemonade and watching fireflies. Marcus came over for dinner twice a week, and slowly, painfully, he and I built a new kind of family, one based on honesty and mutual respect rather than blood obligation. In August, I received another letter from Rachel. This one was shorter, simpler. Thank you for not closing the door completely. That's more than I deserve. I'll keep working on myself. I promise. I tucked the letter away in a drawer with the first one. I didn't know if Rachel would keep her promise. I didn't know if she'd truly change or if she'd fall back into old patterns once she was released. I didn't know if we'd ever have a real relationship again. But I knew I'd done the right thing in leaving that door open. Not for her sake, but for mine. Because the alternative, complete and permanent estrangement, would have eaten away at me, would have turned me bitter and hard. I'd already lost so much. I didn't want to lose my capacity for hope and compassion, too. A year passed. Then another. Tommy grew taller, more confident. He stopped having nightmares about his mother being taken away. He stopped asking if I was going to disappear, too. The trauma was still there. It would probably always be there. But it was becoming part of his story, rather than the whole story. Marcus married Claire in a small ceremony in my backyard. Tommy was the ring bearer, proud in his little suit. I cried, but they were happy tears this time. Claire was good to Tommy, never trying to replace Rachel, but offering a steady maternal presence. She understood the complications of our situation and navigated them with grace. I turned 70, then 71. My doctor continued to marvel at my good health. I continued to volunteer, to garden, to live my life with intention and joy. The house that Rachel had coveted became a hub of activity, dinner parties, holiday celebrations, Tommy's sleepovers with friends. Rachel wrote regularly, once a month, like clockwork. The letters were never long or demanding. She'd tell me about her therapy sessions, the classes she was taking, the books she was reading. She'd ask about Tommy, and I'd respond with carefully chosen details, things I thought she should know, things that wouldn't hurt Tommy if she shared them. She never asked to see me, never pushed. She seemed to understand that the ball was in my court, that I'd reach out when and if I was ready. In her third year of incarceration, she made parole. The hearing was difficult. The prosecutor argued she should serve her full sentence, that elder abuse was too serious to be treated leniently. But Rachel's lawyer presented evidence of her progress, therapy records, educational achievements, statements from prison counselors about her model behavior. I was asked to submit a victim impact statement. I struggled with what to say. Part of me wanted her to stay locked up, safe and far away where she couldn't hurt anyone. But another part remembered her letters, the slow evidence of real change. In the end, I wrote, Rachel Holloway caused me tremendous harm. She betrayed my trust in the deepest way possible. However, I've also seen evidence over the past 3 years that she's working to understand and address the issues that led to her actions. If the parole board believes she's made sufficient progress and poses no danger to others, I won't object to her release. However, I request that the restraining order remain in place and that any contact between us remain strictly voluntary on my part. Asterisk. The parole board granted her release with conditions: continued therapy, community service, no contact with me unless I initiated it, and strict oversight of her finances. She was released in October, exactly 3 years after that fateful weekend when Tommy had begged me not to go home. The anniversary wasn't lost on any of us. I didn't go to meet her. Marcus did, offering her a ride from the prison to the halfway house where she'd be living. He reported back that she looked healthier, calmer, more grounded than he'd seen her in years. She asked about you and Tommy, he told me over coffee in my kitchen. I told her you were both doing well. She didn't ask to see either of you. She just said to tell you she's grateful for your letters and that she's going to keep working on herself. How do you feel about it? I asked. Her being out? Marcus sighed, running his hand through his hair, a gesture that reminded me of Tommy. Honestly, I'm not sure. Part of me wants to believe she's changed. Part of me remembers how convincing she was when she was planning to destroy you, how normal she seemed while plotting something so monstrous. I don't know if I'll ever trust her again. That's fair, I said. You don't have to trust her. None of us do. But Tommy's asking about her. Now that she's out, he wants to know if he can see her. This was the conversation I'd been dreading. Tommy was 10 now, old enough to have his own opinions about his mother, old enough to make some of his own choices. But was he old enough to protect himself if Rachel hadn't truly changed? What do you think? I asked Marcus. I think he deserves the chance to have a mother if she's capable of being one now. But I also think we need to be careful. Supervised visits, maybe. Start slow, see how it goes. We brought Tommy into the conversation, the three of us sitting at my kitchen table like we'd done so many times over the past 3 years. Your mom has been released from prison, Marcus told him gently, and we want to know how you feel about that. Do you want to see her? Tommy's face went through a dozen emotions in quick succession. Hope, fear, anger, longing. Is she still bad? He asked finally. She did a bad thing, I corrected. But people aren't just good or bad. They're complicated. Your mom did something very wrong, but she's been working hard to understand why and to become better. Whether she's succeeded, we don't know yet. Can I try seeing her? Tommy asked, just to see if she's different. If that's what you want, we can arrange it, Marcus said. But it would be supervised visits at first. Either Grandma or I would be there with you. And if at any point you're uncomfortable or you want to stop, we stop. No questions asked. Your feelings matter most. Okay, Tommy said. I want to try. The first meeting was arranged for a neutral location, a family counseling center with a trained mediator present. I insisted on being there, despite my own complicated feelings about seeing Rachel again. If this was going to happen, I needed to be sure Tommy was safe. We arrived early, Tommy quiet and nervous beside me. Marcus was on my other side, his presence solid and reassuring. The counseling room was pleasant but generic. Comfortable chairs, neutral colors, a box of tissues on every table. Rachel arrived exactly on time, accompanied by her parole officer. 3 years in prison had changed her physically. She was thinner, her hair completely gray now, lines etched around her eyes and mouth that hadn't been there before. She wore simple clothes, jeans and a plain sweater, and no jewelry except a cheap watch. When she saw Tommy, her face crumpled. "Oh, baby," she whispered. "Look how big you've gotten." Tommy stood frozen, staring at his mother like she was a stranger. In many ways, she was. 3 years was an eternity in a child's life. "Hi, Mommy," he said finally, his voice small and uncertain. The mediator, a calm woman named Dr. Santos, stepped in. "Why don't we all sit down? Rachel, Tommy has some things he wants to say to you. We're here to facilitate that conversation and make sure everyone feels safe and heard." We sat, Tommy between Marcus and me, Rachel across from us with Dr. Santos beside her. The physical distance felt symbolic. "Tommy," Dr. Santos prompted gently, "you wanted to talk to your mom. What would you like to say?" Tommy looked down at his hands, then up at Rachel, then at me. I nodded encouragingly. "I want to know why," he said, his voice stronger now. "Why did you want to hurt Grandma? Why did you do those things?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "I was sick, honey. Not sick like with a cold, but sick in my thinking. I cared too much about money and not enough about people. I was selfish and cruel, and I hurt the people I was supposed to love most. Did you ever love me? The question I'd answered for him years ago, now asked directly. Yes, Rachel said without hesitation. Yes, I loved you. I love you. I always have. But I was so focused on what I wanted that I didn't think about how my actions would hurt you. I used you, Tommy. I was going to use you to manipulate Grandma. That was wrong. So wrong. Are you still going to hurt Grandma? No. Never again. I promise you that. How do I know? Tommy asked, and my heart swelled with pride at his wisdom, his refusal to just accept easy answers. You don't, Rachel said honestly. I can tell you I've changed. I can tell you I've spent 3 years in therapy learning why I did what I did and how to be different. But words are easy. Showing you through my actions, that's going to take time. Years, probably. And you don't have to trust me right away. You don't have to trust me at all if you don't want to. I want to trust you, Tommy said quietly. But I'm scared. That makes sense. I'd be scared too in your position. They talked for another hour, carefully supervised by Dr. Santos, who would redirect whenever the conversation got too intense or started heading in unhealthy directions. Rachel answered Tommy's questions honestly, never making excuses, never minimizing what she'd done. She told him she understood if he didn't want a relationship with her, that she'd respect whatever he needed. I sat silent through most of it, watching my daughter interact with her son, looking for signs of manipulation or deception. But I didn't see any. I saw a woman who was genuinely trying to repair what she'd broken, knowing it might be impossible. Finally, Dr. Santos turned to me. Mrs. Brennan, do you have anything you'd like to say? I looked at Rachel, really looked at her, for the first time in 3 years. I want to believe you've changed, I said slowly. But Rachel, you were so convincing before. You hid your plans so well. You lied so easily. How do I know this isn't just another performance? You don't, Rachel said, echoing what she'd told Tommy. All I can do is show you, over time, through consistent actions, that I'm different now. But Mom, I want you to know. I understand if you never forgive me. I understand if you never want to see me again after today. I stole 3 years of your life. Well, tried to steal the rest of your life, really. You don't owe me anything. You stole 3 years of Tommy's childhood with his mother, I said. You stole Marcus's marriage. You stole my sense of safety in my own family. The damage ripples out in ways you probably don't even realize. I know, she whispered. I think about it every day. Are you just saying what we want to hear? Or do you mean it? I mean it. But I understand why you doubt me. I've given you every reason to doubt me. We left without making any concrete plans for future visits. Dr. Santos recommended weekly sessions if Tommy wanted them, with the frequency and format to be determined by his comfort level. As we walked to the car, Tommy slipped his hand into mine. What did you think, Grandma? I think your mom is trying, I said carefully. Whether she's truly changed, time will tell. But Tommy, you don't have to figure this out right now. You can take it slow, see how you feel, change your mind whenever you want. I think I want to see her again, he said, but not without you there. Deal, I said, squeezing his hand. The visits continued, weekly at first, always supervised, always at the counseling center. Rachel never pushed for more, never asked to take Tommy alone, never requested to visit my home or to have contact outside these structured sessions. After 2 months, the mediator suggested we might try a less formal setting, a restaurant perhaps, or a park. Tommy agreed, but only if I came along. So the 3 of us, grandmother, daughter, grandson, had lunch at a family restaurant in neutral territory. It was awkward. Conversations stuttered and stalled. Silences stretched uncomfortably. But Rachel kept trying, asking Tommy about school, about soccer, about his friends. She didn't ask about me, didn't pry into my life, seemed to understand that she'd forfeited the right to know those details. I got a job, she told Tommy over dessert. at a non-profit that helps people with financial literacy, teaching people how to budget, how to avoid debt, how to save for the future. Do you like it? Tommy asked. I do, actually. It feels good to help people instead of what I did before. After lunch, as we walked to our cars, Tommy ran ahead to look at something in a store window. Rachel and I were alone for the first time in 3 years. Thank you, she said quietly, for giving me this chance, for bringing Tommy. I'm not doing it for you, I said bluntly. I'm doing it for him. He deserves the chance to have a mother if you're capable of being one. I know, and I'm going to be. I swear, Mom, I'm different now. I see things so differently. Money doesn't matter. Status doesn't matter. All that matters is people, relationships, love. I can't believe I ever thought otherwise. Pretty words, Rachel. You were always good with words. She flinched, but nodded. You're right to be skeptical. All I can do is keep showing up, keep being honest, keep doing the work. One day at a time. One day at a time, I agreed. That night, lying in bed, I thought about how strange life was. 3 years ago, I'd been terrified, fleeing my daughter's house, discovering her plot to destroy me. Now I was having awkward lunches with her, watching her try to rebuild a relationship with her son, wondering if real change was possible. I still didn't trust her. Maybe I never would. But I was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, the Rachel who'd planned such evil was gone, replaced by someone who genuinely understood what she'd done wrong. Or maybe I was just fooling myself again, letting hope blind me to reality. The holidays approached, and with them came difficult decisions. Tommy wanted his mother at Christmas. Marcus was supportive but cautious. Claire was understanding but clearly uncomfortable with the idea. What do you want, Margaret? Diane asked me over coffee. Not what's best for Tommy, not what Marcus thinks, not what Rachel wants. What do you want? I thought about it for a long time. I want my family back, I said finally. Not the way it was. That's impossible. But I want some version of family, where we can gather together without fear or suspicion or hatred. I want Tommy to grow up with a mother who loves him. I want to believe people can change, can redeem themselves, can earn their way back from terrible mistakes. That's a beautiful dream, Diane said gently. But is it realistic? I don't know, but I think I have to try. For my own sake, as much as anyone's. I don't want to spend the rest of my life consumed by what Rachel did. I want to move forward. So I invited Rachel to Christmas dinner, a small gathering, just me, Marcus, Claire, Tommy, and her. Not a full family reconciliation, just a meal. Rachel arrived with a store-bought pie and obvious nerves. She'd asked what she could bring, and I'd deliberately chosen something simple, something that didn't require her to have access to my kitchen, to be alone with food she might tamper with. The thought was paranoid, I knew, but the fear was still there. Dinner was stilted, but not horrible. Rachel was careful not to overstep, not to assume familiarity she hadn't earned. She complimented Claire's dress, asked Marcus about his work, told Tommy how proud she was of his report card. She didn't try to hug me, didn't call me Mom, kept her physical and emotional distance. After dinner, while the others were in the living room, Rachel found me in the kitchen doing dishes. Can I help? She asked. I've got it, I said automatically. Please, I'd like to help. I handed her a towel and we worked in silence for a few moments. Then Rachel spoke. I know you don't trust me. I know you probably never will. Not completely. But I want you to know that I'm grateful for this, for you letting me be here, with Tommy, with all of you. It's more than I deserve. Yes, it is, I agreed. I've lost so much. My marriage, my home, my freedom, 3 years of Tommy's life. I deserve to lose all of it. But having even this small chance to be part of his life again, it's everything to me. Don't waste it, I said. Don't make me regret giving you this chance. I won't. I swear, Mom, I won't. There it was, She'd called me Mom. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with history and pain and fragile hope. I didn't respond, just kept washing dishes, but I didn't correct her either. 2 more years passed. Tommy turned 12, then 13. He was seeing Rachel regularly now, sometimes without supervision, though never overnight and never at my house. Rachel had moved into a small apartment, furnished simply, living within her means at the nonprofit. She was paying restitution slowly, a small amount each month from her modest salary. She'd started dating someone, a man named David who worked at a homeless shelter. He knew about her past. She'd told him everything on their second date, refusing to build a relationship on deception. He'd stayed anyway, seeing something in her worth loving. Marcus and Claire had a baby, a little girl they named Hope. Tommy was obsessed with his baby sister, constantly wanting to hold her and help take care of her. When Rachel met Hope for the first time at a gathering at Marcus and Claire's house, she cried. "She's beautiful," she told Claire. "You're very lucky." "Thank you," Claire said graciously. "Would you like to hold her?" I watched Rachel hold her ex-husband's new baby, saw the wistfulness and regret on her face, and felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. She'd lost so much, thrown away so much, and she was living with those consequences every day. My 74th birthday fell on a Saturday. I'd planned a small party, just close friends and family. To my surprise, when I opened the door to let in what I thought was the caterer, Rachel stood there with a wrapped package. "Happy birthday, Mom," she said. "I know I wasn't invited, but I wanted to drop off a gift. I won't stay." "Who said you weren't invited?" I asked, surprising myself. Nobody. I just assumed." "Come in, Rachel." She followed me into the house, her first time inside since that terrible weekend 5 years ago. She looked around at the familiar rooms, and I saw tears in her eyes. "It looks the same," she whispered. "I thought you might have changed things." "Why would I? I love this house exactly as it is. Because of me. Because of what I tried to do. I won't let what you did change how I live in my own home," I said firmly. "This is my house, my sanctuary. You don't have that power over me." "No," she agreed, "I don't." The party was small but warm. My friends had gradually come to accept Rachel's presence in my life, though they remained watchful and protective. Tommy was delighted to have his mother there, proudly introducing her to his friends from soccer. Marcus and Claire were cordial, maintaining appropriate boundaries. When it came time to open presents, I saved Rachel's for last. Inside was a photo album, handmade, filled with pictures of Tommy through the years. School photos, soccer games, Christmas mornings. Pictures Rachel hadn't been there for, moments she'd missed because of choices she'd made. "I got these from Marcus," she explained. "And from you, actually. You've posted some on your Facebook page over the years. I wanted to document what I missed, to remember what I lost, so I never forget the cost of my actions." It was both heartbreaking and hopeful, an acknowledgement of her failures and a commitment to remember them. "Thank you, Rachel," I said quietly. "It's a thoughtful gift." Later, after most of the guests had left and Tommy was helping clean up, Rachel asked if we could talk privately. We went out to the back porch, where Edward and I used to sit on summer evenings, watching the sunset. "I need to tell you something," Rachel said, her voice nervous. "David and I are getting married. Next month, just a small ceremony at the courthouse. And I wanted to ask if you'd come. You don't have to, and I'll understand if you say no, but it would mean a lot to me if you were there." I looked at my daughter, this woman who'd once tried to destroy me and who'd spent 5 years working to become someone better. "I'll come," I said, "on one condition." "Anything." "You write a letter to Tommy, to be given to him when he turns 18. A letter explaining everything, what you did, why you did it, what you've learned, how much you regret it. I want him to have that, in your own words, when he's old enough to fully understand. I can do that. I should do that. And Rachel? I want you to know that while I'm willing to have you in my life, there are still boundaries. You'll never have access to my finances. You'll never be my healthcare proxy or power of attorney. If anything happens to me, everything goes to Tommy in trust, with Marcus as executor. You won't inherit this house or anything else. Those are my terms." "I understand," she said without hesitation. "I don't want your money, Mom. I don't want your house. I just want a chance to be your daughter again, in whatever limited capacity you'll allow." "We'll see," I said. "It's not something that happens overnight." "I know, but I'm patient. I've learned patience, if nothing else." We sat in silence for a while, watching the evening light fade, each lost in our own thoughts. 5 years ago, I'd sat in this same spot, reeling from the discovery of Rachel's betrayal. Now here we were, tentatively rebuilding something that might not ever be what it was, but could be something new, something honest, something real. "I'm proud of you," I said finally, "for the work you've done, for the person you're becoming. It doesn't erase what you did, but it matters." Rachel wiped tears from her eyes. "Thank you. That means more than you know." "Don't thank me yet. I'm still watching, still waiting to see if this change is permanent or temporary." "It's permanent," she said firmly. "I promise you, Mom. I will never be that person again." Tommy graduated high school with honors and a full scholarship to college. The ceremony was held on a beautiful June day, and the whole family came, Marcus and Claire with little Hope, now 5 and precocious, Diane, Helen, and Barbara, my faithful friends who'd stood by me through everything, and Rachel with David, married now for 4 years and expecting their first child together. I sat in the audience, watching my grandson walk across the stage to receive his diploma, and felt a peace I hadn't known in years. This boy, this remarkable young man, had been through so much, had witnessed his mother's arrest, had spent years processing trauma, had learned to navigate complicated family dynamics with wisdom beyond his years, and yet he'd emerged strong, kind, compassionate. He volunteered at the same elder advocacy organization where I worked. He'd chosen to study social work in college, wanting to help families in crisis. The trauma hadn't broken him. It had shaped him into someone who wanted to prevent others from experiencing what he had. After the ceremony, we gathered at my house for a celebration. The yard was full of people, Tommy's friends, teachers who'd meant something to him, neighbors who'd watched him grow up. Laughter filled the air, along with the smell of food from the grill Marcus was tending. Rachel found me in the kitchen, preparing a salad. "Can I help?" she asked, the same question she'd asked 5 years ago at Christmas. "Sure," I said, handing her vegetables to chop. We worked together companionably, the awkwardness that had once characterized our interactions mostly gone now. Not entirely. There was still a carefulness to how we spoke to each other, still boundaries we both respected, but it was easier now, more natural. "I wrote that letter you asked for," Rachel said. "The one for Tommy. It's sealed and dated. I wanted to give it to you now, in case anything happens before his 18th birthday." She pulled an envelope from her purse, thick with pages. I took it and tucked it safely in my desk drawer. "Thank you," I said. "He'll appreciate having it when he's ready." "I hope so." It was hard to write, but important. I wanted to be completely honest about everything, the planning, the execution, how close I came to succeeding, and how grateful I am that I failed. "Are you grateful you failed?" "Absolutely. If I'd succeeded, if Tommy hadn't warned you, I'd have destroyed 3 lives, yours, Tommy's, and my own. I'd have gotten away with it for a while, maybe, but the person I'd have had to become to live with what I'd done?" She shook her head. I was already becoming that person, and it was monstrous. Getting caught, facing consequences, being forced to examine who I'd become. It saved me in a way, even though it cost me everything at the time. "That's a mature perspective," I acknowledged. "It took me years to get there. For a long time I was just angry, at myself, at you for escaping, at Tommy for telling, at the system for punishing me. But my therapist helped me see that I wasn't the victim in my own story. I was the villain, and villains don't get happy endings unless they fundamentally change." And have you fundamentally changed? Rachel was quiet for a moment, considering. I think so. I hope so. I know I'm not the same person I was 6 years ago. That person was hollow inside, filled with greed and entitlement and resentment. This person, the person I am now, values different things. Relationships over money, honesty over manipulation, love over control. Actions speak louder than words, I said, but not unkindly. I know. That's why I keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep trying to be better every single day. Not for what I can get from you or anyone else, but because it's the right way to live. Through the window, I could see Tommy laughing with his friends, Hope toddling after him demanding attention, Marcus and Claire watching with proud smiles. This family, fractured and reassembled, imperfect but functioning, was my legacy. Not the house, not the money, not the things Rachel had once coveted. These relationships, these connections, this love, was what mattered. Do you know what I've learned? I asked Rachel. What? That forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't matter. It's about choosing not to let the past poison the present. I'll never forget what you did, Rachel. I'll never fully trust you the way I once did. But I can choose to let you be part of my life anyway, with appropriate boundaries and realistic expectations. Is that forgiveness? Rachel asked. It's the best kind of forgiveness I can offer. Take it or leave it. I'll take it, she said immediately. And I'll cherish it because I know how hard it was for you to get here. We finished preparing the food and carried it outside. The party continued into the evening, stories and laughter flowing as freely as the lemonade and iced tea. Tommy gave a speech thanking everyone who'd supported him, and when he mentioned me, his voice cracked with emotion. Grandma Margaret saved my life, he said simply. She protected me when I needed protection, loved me when I needed love, and taught me what strength really looks like. Everything I am is because of her. I wiped away tears, accepting hugs from all sides. Diane squeezed my hand. You did good, Margaret, she whispered. You survived and you helped him thrive. As the sun set and the party began to wind down, I found myself standing alone for a moment, looking out over my garden. The same garden I'd tended for 40 years, the same house I'd fought to keep, the same life I'd refused to surrender. Tommy came up beside me, tall now, taller than me by several inches, and put his arm around my shoulders. Thank you, Grandma, he said, for everything, for fighting for yourself, which meant fighting for me too, for showing me that people can be strong and kind at the same time, for teaching me about boundaries and forgiveness and love. You're welcome, sweetheart. But you did most of it yourself. You were the one who was brave enough to speak up that night. You're the one who chose to work through your trauma instead of letting it define you. I'm just glad I could be here for the journey. Are you happy, Grandma? After everything, are you happy? I thought about it. Really thought about it. The betrayal still hurt. The memories of that terrible time still occasionally haunted my dreams. The trust that had been broken could never be fully repaired. But I was standing in my own home, surrounded by people who loved me. I had my health, my independence, my freedom. I had Tommy, thriving and successful. I had friends who'd proven their loyalty. I even had Rachel, changed and humbled and trying her best to be better. Yes, I said honestly. I'm happy. Not the same kind of happy I was before all this happened. That innocent happiness is gone. But a deeper happiness, a harder-won happiness. The happiness of someone who survived something terrible and came out stronger. That's the best kind, Tommy said wisely. We stood together, watching the last light fade from the sky, and I thought about how different things could have been. If Tommy hadn't overheard that phone call, if I hadn't believed him and fled, if I hadn't gathered evidence and fought back, I would be locked away somewhere, drugged and controlled, while Rachel sold off my life piece by piece. But I had escaped. I had survived. I had fought back and won. And in the years since, I'd learned that victory didn't mean everything went back to normal. It meant creating a new normal, one that acknowledged the trauma but didn't let it have the final word. It meant extending grace without compromising boundaries. It meant holding people accountable while still believing in redemption. Rachel approached us hesitantly. "Tommy, I hate to break this up, but David and I should probably head home. I tire easily these days." She patted her pregnant belly ruefully. "Thanks for coming, Mom," Tommy said, giving her a hug. "It meant a lot to have you here." "Thank you for wanting me here," Rachel said. She turned to me. "And thank you, Mom. For everything." I nodded, not quite ready for words. Rachel accepted this, used to my guardedness, and left with David. After everyone had gone and the house was quiet again, I sat on the back porch one more time, a cup of chamomile tea in my hands. The stars were coming out, bright and clear in the summer sky. Edward used to say that the stars reminded him that we were part of something bigger, that our small dramas were just tiny moments in an endless universe. I'd been angry at him for leaving me, for dying and abandoning me to face Rachel's betrayal alone. But maybe he'd given me something valuable in all those years together. The strength to stand up for myself, the wisdom to recognize manipulation, the courage to fight back when necessary. My phone buzzed with a text from Tommy. "Love you, Grandma. Thanks for being my hero." I smiled and texted back, "Love you too, sweetheart. You're my hero right back." Then I sat in the comfortable silence of my own home, in the safety of my own space, surrounded by memories and hope and hard-won peace. The story that had begun with Tommy's desperate warning, "Don't go back home," had come full circle. I had gone home, had fought for it, had kept it. And now it was more than just a house. It was a symbol of survival, of strength, of the power of standing up for yourself even when the threat came from the person you least expected. Rachel had tried to take everything from me. Instead, she'd inadvertently taught me what really mattered. Not the house, not the money, not the things that could be bought and sold, but independence, dignity, self-determination, love, the things that could never be taken unless you surrendered them. And I hadn't surrendered. I'd fought. I'd won. And now I was sitting on my own porch, in my own home, living my own life on my own terms. That, in the end, was the greatest victory of all. This story is fictional, but based on real patterns of elder financial abuse that affect thousands of seniors every year. If you or someone you know is experiencing elder abuse of any kind, please reach out to National Elder Abuse Hotline 1-800-677-1116, Adult Protective Services in your local area, Local Area Agency on Aging, Elder Law Attorney. Warning signs of elder financial abuse include sudden changes in financial accounts or documents, unexplained withdrawals or transfers, isolation from friends and family members, a caregiver showing excessive interest in finances, confusion about recent financial decisions, sudden changes to wills or power of attorney documents. Remember, you are never too old to advocate for yourself. Independence and dignity are rights, not privileges. And speaking up about abuse, whether you're the victim or a concerned witness, can save lives. The end.